In order to get our external devices into the computer world, we need a new piece of hardware called a MIDI interface. Now, it's very similar to a through box in that it's probably going to have multiple in and out ports. However, the MIDI interface is going to take anything coming from the out ports of our master devices and send them directly to the computer, because the computer and the sequencer that it's hosting is going to handle all of our MIDI routing. So now, anything coming to the MIDI inputs of a MIDI interface are going to go directly to the computer. The computer is going to allow us to reroute that to the proper MIDI output as well as MIDI channel. The connection from the computer to the interface is called a dual serial cable. This cable can be multiple connector types. USB is probably the most common. You may also see FireWire. There's MIDI DIN connections, PC parallel type connections, RS-232 or RS-422 connections. But regardless of the connection type, it is always a dual serial cable. MIDI is one-way communication from master device to slave device. It only travels serially from one device to another. So this dual serial cable is essentially like taping two MIDI cables together. It allows information to go to and from the MIDI interface from the computer simultaneously. Connections, again, handshake wiring being the best. So here we have a 4-port MIDI interface. Again, those in ports are labeled A, B, C, and D. The out ports are also labeled A, B, C, and D. And we have our 4 devices handshake wired to each of those ports respectively. Now, however, notice that we have a USB connector. That's going to be our dual serial connector to go to our computer. And again, keep in mind that no audio travels through MIDI at any time. So if we have multiple external devices, we're going to need to take their audio outputs into a mixer or an audio interface in order to hear all of them simultaneously.